You, O Lord, are in the midst of us. We are called by your name. Leave us not, O Lord our God. Towards the end of the 18th century, strangers to London would often meet at dinner parties a big, ungainly man, shabby and slovenly, and with an ill-fitting wig. They would wonder, perhaps, by what right such a clown had gained admittance to cultured society. Then, as the meal proceeded, somebody would say something untrue or affected or silly, and the big, shabby man would open his mouth and administer a reproof in a voice of such awe-inspiring authority that other conversations would cease. All eyes would be turned towards him. "That's the great Dr. Johnson," someone would whisper to the stranger, "the man who has compiled the new dictionary." Most of what Johnson wrote is out of fashion today, but he is still remembered as one of the greatest figures of his time, because of his love of truth and his contempt of humbug. This made him feared by the small-minded and false. Yet, strangely enough, in spite of his withering scorn and severity, he had a very tender heart. The house where he lived and worked was rarely without some guest who was old or poor or blind, and though he never had much money, he was always dipping his hand in his pocket to help any friend or stranger who was down on his luck. Men stood in awe of him, but in the presence of God, Johnson was like a little child, humble and penitent, and bitterly conscious of imperfection. After his death, many prayers and meditations were discovered in his private diary, written for no eye but his own, but reminding posterity that the dominating intellectual figure of his age was wise enough to know that the best wisdom of men is foolishness in the sight of God, and that true greatness can spring only from true humility. Help us, O God, to remember that humility is the truest dignity.